Well, hi guys, it's that time. It's our Bible teaching snippet of the day. You'll notice I have a sweater on today. Oh my goodness, it's so cold today. Yesterday it was really warm, and the last few days I've worn short sleeves and even shorts, and today it is just cold outside. So anyway, join me today with part 2 of our look at are all humans born into sin. And the number one passage that's used is straight out of Psalms 51:5. And it says, "Behold, I was born in iniquity. My mother conceived me in sin." And this is written by David, okay? Yesterday I said something about that there's the Jewish tradition and different writings that talk about how David's mother supposedly committed adultery against their father, Jesse. I guess that's his name. I hope I said it right. And so I want to, this is just too juicy, right, for us for me to make that comment and keep moving along. So today I'm just going to share, now this is out of Jeremy Meyer's article, and it says, did David's mother commit adultery? And so I'm going to pull some things out of this. Now, he's not the only one that has written on this, okay? He is such a good writer, though. It's so easy for me to be able to pull some things out and just share them with you, okay? So let's talk about this, okay? It talks about how David, and he's doing some parallels here. It says, that did David's mother commit suicide? The tradition is based on Psalms 69, okay? It says David was despised by his family, Psalm 69. Here's the tradition to what's going on. And I'll do my best, because I don't want to read the entire article word for word. I tell you what I can do is I can post it on Facebook, or even send you a link, put a link in below this video or whatever. So let me get on this, okay? So they said that David grew up in a family in which he was despised, rejected, shunned, and an outcast. He was treated with scorn. This is Psalm 69, verse 7 and 8. The community followed the example of the father, and that's what communities did back then, and we still shamefully do that. We ought not to do that to people. It's bad enough that their own family rejects them. We should be open and loving toward them, maybe, to help them along. Anyway, that's a different teaching, right? Okay. So the community followed the example of the family and assumed that David was full of sin and guilt. Psalm 69, 11 and 12. If something turned up missing, they believed he stole it and forced him to replace it. This is Psalm 69, 4. He was also the object of jokes, pranks, filling his plate, watch this, with gall and his cup with vinegar. Psalm 69, 20 and 21. If this is true, it somehow explains why Jesus did not have David present. Why Jesse, David's father, did not have David present when the prophet Samuel came to choose a man to be God's anointed king. And that's found 1 Samuel 16, verse 1 through 13. And also why his older brother, Eliab, E-L-A-I-B, rejected and reacted the way he did to David, and rejected David when David later showed up at the Israelite camp when they were being mocked by Goliath. This is in 1 Samuel 17, verse 28. So why did David's family reject him? And now he goes into, in his article, that it was believed through Jewish tradition that David's family rejected him because everybody thought that David's mother committed adultery and bore David out of a wedlock. Even though she was still married to Jesse, David was, quote, a bastard child. In fact, I'm going to read this to you. This is so good. In Psalm 69, 8, the same Hebrew root as Muzar, M-U-Z-A-R, meaning bastard, okay? In our English translation, it will call it a stranger, but it actually means bastard. Did you know they called Jesus a bastard? Yes, over in the Gospels, the Pharisees were talking some horrible stuff to Jesus, and they actually called him a bastard child. Okay, so let me keep going here. So David's father, Jesse, now I'm taking you back to the Old Testament, okay? Jesse was the son of Obed. We find this in the book of Ruth, remember? So Ruth is married by Boaz, okay? So we've got Boaz is the father of Obed, and Obed is the father of Jesse, okay? And Ruth was a Moabite woman, and this is very important. The Jewish traditional law forbade and would not allow Hebrew women to marry Moabites, and this is because it was an ongoing battle between those two tribes, okay? But the law wasn't really clear with whether or not a man could marry a Moabite woman, okay? So Boaz believed that the law did allow such a marriage, and that's why he went on and married Ruth. He didn't feel like he was breaking any laws. But watch, this is so interesting too. According to Jewish tradition, Boaz died on the night that he married Ruth, and this is found in the Midrash, Zuta, Z-U-T-A, Zuta, Ruth, chapter 4, okay? Many believe that his death proved that God had condemned Boaz's marriage to Ruth and was punishing him accordingly. Doesn't that just sound like Christianity today? Oh yeah, God did that to her because she said a cuss word yesterday, and look, she's in the hospital from a bad car wreck. That'll teach her to say a bad word. We have grown about this much since 6,000 years ago, guys. It's so hilarious to me on some days when I read stuff. Okay, so even though that Boaz and Ruth were intimate for only one night, she actually conceived and gave birth to Obed. Okay, now after Jesse had been married for some years, he had fathered 7 sons with his wife Nisbeth, Nizbeth, and had gained honor as a righteous man and a spiritual leader in the community. But what we find later, Jesse begins to question and doubt his legitimacy. Not only, this has nothing to do with David yet, his own sons, because of who he was. If he was impure, then his children were illegitimate and impure as well. So Jesse, wanting a legitimate heir, watch this is so good, guys. Wanting a legitimate heir to have a plan to have a son, he decided, this is Jesse, that he would do what Abraham did with Sarah, that through relations with his Canaanite maidservant, they could have a son. They're helping God out again, right? So Jesse was, whether Jesse was viewed by God as a true Israelite or just a Moabite convert to Judaism, the law allowed him to marry a female convert to Judaism. If he obtained a son from this union, he would be recognized by all as a legitimate heir, and so making his family line secure. So when the Canaanite woman was told of Jesse's plan, she did not want to participate, okay, because she loved Jesse's wife, Nisbeth. And since the plan she had gone through by and had seen the pain that she had gone through by being separated from her husband. So her friend did not want to do what she didn't really have a choice in back then. You got to remember, women couldn't just look at a man and go, no, I'm not going to do this, okay? Women were more like property to men back then. Okay, so what happens is similar to what happened with Laban and Leah and Rachel, right? They tricked Jesse. Okay, so when Jesse came in to have relations with the Canaanite woman, she was not the one he was with. He was actually in the bed with his own wife that he had cast away and forced her to leave. And so his wife gets pregnant and is pregnant with Jesse. So there's your storyline. Is that not just amazing? Okay, so months later, Jesse's estranged wife that had been kicked out, Nisbeth, who had already given him 7 sons, was pregnant with their own child together. But David's daddy thought that she, being separated and sent away, had committed adultery. She wasn't divorced. She was just sent away. Men did that. That's why Moses put it in the law that they had to give them a letter of divorce, because they would just throw women out like this. So he did not realize that his wife had always been faithful to him, and that baby that she had was indeed his own seed, and David would become the king of Israel. Now, I want to just talk to you a little more about this, okay? But David grew up in a family who despised him and rejected him and treated him so horrible, guys. And so what I want to do for the rest of this, I'm going to just... that's all I'm going to do today on reading this, okay? This is such a fantastic story. But what I want to do is just talk to you a little bit about how, did you know that they said that Jesus was a bastard child, that Joseph wasn't the daddy because Joseph hadn't had sex with her and all of this, and they called him a bastard child. The same thing they did to David. And he was despised and rejected by his own family. But Jesus would actually become accepted by his own family. There was one thing in here that I skipped that I want to circle back to. And maybe I'll just pick that up and talk about it tomorrow because I've already gone quite a ways. Well, I tell you what, here it is. I'm going to go ahead and go just a little bit longer today. It said that all the great qualities of Boaz were to be found in Jesse and his 7 sons, while all the despicable traits of Ruth the Moabite were concentrated in David. The tradition is that this is also why David's family forced David to be the shepherd in the fields by himself. Shepherds did not go in the fields by themselves. It was always shepherds, plural. But they were hoping a bear or a lion would actually kill David because he was an illegitimate bastard child in the family. And of course, David's mother was always defending him like Mary would have to do with Jesus. Here's the last thing I want to say. This may also explain that later in life, when David was fleeing from Saul trying to murder him, he asked the king of Moab to harbor his mother and father. And one of his brothers was also protected there. Of course, a couple of years later, when David becomes king of Israel, he slaughters 2/3 of the Moabite army. Why? Well, again, according to Jewish tradition, this was because after David left his 3 family members under the protection of the king of Moab, the king killed David's father and mother, but left his brother alive. You can see that in 2 Samuel chapter 8, verse 2. So when David becomes king, he retaliates by killing 2/3 of the soldiers of Moab. Now look, I'm going to let you go because I went a little long today. I'm trying to get it under 12 minutes, but this is too juicy to get away from, right? I'm going to sign off. I'm going to tell you that I love you. I want the very, very best for you, and I pray for you daily, and I know people don't realize that I do that, but I really, really do. I'm going to go ahead, and if you want to drop a little comment in today's video, you're welcome to. I'll be glad to send you the article link privately. I'll post it, the article on Facebook as well. Well, I'm running now. I got to go. I love you, and I will see you here. Now, look, maybe not tomorrow, guys, okay, because I've got a busy day out in town tomorrow doing a few things, but I may hop back on Friday just to say hello. I love you, and I'll see you again. Bye-bye.